Dave Debo is going to talk with Francisco Vasquez, the President Emeritus of Child and Family Services. But our first guest has a lot of things to offer us this morning in terms of his experience. A young man who has lived a lot of life already since his time here in Buffalo. Paul Pérez is with us this morning. Paul, thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Peace. How y'all doing?
Well, we're doing okay. Paul is involved in a lot of different things. He says he's the site director for home headquarters, but that's his 9 to 5, as he tells me. But he is involved in a couple of other things, a lot of it having to do with real estate, better living interests, and also better living logistics too, correct, as well. So we want to get into all of those things. But I think, Paul, one of the things that really strikes us about your experience and your thoughts is just about when it comes to generational wealth and the lack thereof when it comes to a lot of Black people. Just a general thought about that, what you are seeing and how perhaps maybe you're going about your experience to try to overcome that.
For sure. I take my experience back to my origin. I'm originally from the South Bronx, New York City, home of the Yankees. But everybody that loves them out there, we appreciate it. We coming from that environment, I tell people, especially here in Buffalo and Western New York, I'm pretty much the equivalent of your Bailey Kensington, your Broadway Fillmore neighborhoods, underserved, the forgotten communities. New York City, yes, is big, 8 million people. The Bronx alone is 2.8 million, but we don't get the same services and the same resources that other communities or affluent communities get. And when we do get it, it's more as we're targeted, like a targeted population and quotas for organizations and groups. So for me, growing up in New York, growing up as a kid, I saw those adversities of crime. I saw violence. I saw drugs and what that did to not only my community, but, what those things did and hit my home. I've had the good, where I had law enforcement. I have family who are detectives, NYPD. I have also family and friends that also serve time in Rikers. And I also have a father-in-law who was a corrections officer in Rikers. So I got to see both paradigms of the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I took the initiative and I really just had this inner self-motivation that a lot of people, tell me about, sometimes to my own detriment. But they always say, man, you're so confident in yourself. Like you just don't stop. You keep believing in yourself and you keep going. And that's what led me to go to school, do what I had to do. I played sports. And I
Did
eventually
you play ball at Buff State?
No, I didn't get to play ball at Buff State, but I thought I was. When I initially came up here, I thought I was going to.
Me too.
Yeah, I thought I was going to play football. I was like, oh, okay, it's a D3. I could probably just go in as a walk-on and do my thing. But I went to Buff State. That's what led me here in 2007, undergrad. And then I got into some things to my own doing. A young kid coming up from New York City.
What was it like coming into Buffalo from New York City and that Buff State community?
It was a culture shock. I think for me, Buffalo itself is very different from New York City. The housing, the atmosphere is more of a hometown type of feel here, whereas in New York, it's a big city. But I do love the fact that all my friends from Buffalo, everybody here in my family, they love the Bills. You can't get away from it. So they have been trying to convert me for several years now, even when the team wasn't doing too well, to be a Bills fan. So in my mind, I'm a Giants. Okay. I rep New York City, but I do support the Buffalo Bills, and I'm happy to see them win.
And we're happy to have you along on the wagon. I'm sure we go through hopefully a great season here. Hey, let's then talk about when it comes to Black generational wealth. This is interesting. You've looked at the situation. What are the things that stand out? What are things that people need to understand when it comes to Black generational wealth and some of the issues? I think the statistic I've seen is the average Black household has 1/10 of the retirement income built up or savings built up that the average white household would have.
Yeah. And I also, another alarming statistic was I learned that Black population, though maybe 12% of the country's population, only owns 1% of the country's wealth. And within the next 20 years, that population will own less than 1% of the country's wealth. And I look at other groups like Jewish Americans or Chinese Americans, and I just see how they are a smaller population in size, but they own more Then the Black population, I want to say within the Jewish community, is about in the 20 percentile rate. So to me, it just was a sticking point. And to the earlier point of me coming to Buffalo,
Yeah.
I had to live off campus. So when I lived off campus, I was living on Grant and Bradley, and I was entrenched in the West Side. And I was like, oh, okay, this is comfortable. I'm familiar with this. I come from the Bronx. This looks very similar
Right.
to where I come from. And then I started noticing, like, yeah, I'm in the Bronx. I'm now in Buffalo, but man, like these houses are like in turmoil. Like I was living next door to vacant abandoned properties. My apartment essentially was what they considered an old trap house. So they used to sell drugs out of there a long time ago. And they thought because now I lived there that they were still selling drugs. So people would knock on the back of our door trying to get drugs. And we kind of had to tell them like, no, we don't. We're college students. We're just here just to go to school. So it took some time. But now if you drive on all along Grand Street, you have now seen that transformation of that community and what that community looks like. And to your point about the generational wealth, you think about all those families and those peoples that originally lived there in the west side of Buffalo, in the east sides of Buffalo, even the fruit belt part of Buffalo. And you see how now those neighborhoods were entirely destitute, weren't the areas of interest. Nobody wanted to put money or resources into there or even dare live there. And now it's where to be. People are buying. I'm seeing nothing but
Are
new
you seeing that in
construction.
your real estate?
100%.
Yeah.
I'm constantly driving. I'm constantly talking to people. I'm constantly helping people in my position as a site director. We do we do 2% down payment mortgages with no PMI. We also do home improvement loans and grants for single family homeowners and also for multi-use. So for landlords that invest in properties here, specifically in Buffalo, they would qualify for a grant in combination with a loan. And we also do no construction. That's what the company does. So I'm constantly doing that on my daily work. And then on my own business, I'm looking at the community. And I had the privilege of when I had finished school and I was going into grad school at Buffalo State College, I got an internship in City Hall. And when I was working in City Hall, I was working in the Division of Citizen Services. So I got to get a feel of what does the ombudsman of the city of Buffalo look like, where all the calls, where all the concerns, the hotline, essentially, and get connected to all the city department. And that's where I eventually leveled up, graduated with my master's degree, and I became the coordinator for the Save Our Streets Task Force. And in that time, that's when I started doing all these clean sweep programs all throughout the city. And I was looking at data to match the resources with the different organizations to come out there and do it on a weekly basis.
Let's talk about the Clean Sweeps initiative. Now, you're not involved in it like you were at that time,
Correct.
but what is it exactly? Just to make sure we understand what we're talking about.
Sure. So the Clean Sweep is a unique public-private partnership. Basically, it's headed from the mayor's office, and it just connects all the city departments, county agencies, state agencies, federal agencies, along with not-for-profits, local not-for-profits, and local businesses to go into the community and provide resources and services, whether it be broken into 3 teams. So there's the beautification and restoration team, cleaning up the vacant houses. Before, when I first started, they were demolishing vacant houses. That has changed now. But
And as a real estate person, you think that's good?
I do. Because I think that now we're at the point where everything is clear and now we need to start building.
Gotcha. Okay.
So then you had that. And then you also had the community outreach team, which is one of my favorite groups because they go out door to door and they're giving their information and services, talking to the residents in the community. Also, not only just giving services, but collecting information and data from the community members to then better enable us as a city at the time to deliver these services in a more effective manner. And then you have what we call codes and law enforcement. And that was probably, to me, one of the greatest parts of it is because now you get to have community police officers going into the community, speaking to the residents and working with them. At the same time, you also have housing code officials going out there and doing summonses and warnings for those that need repairs, specifically those absentee landlords that are out there that do like to take advantage of renters. And I can speak to that, being a renter, coming from Section 8 housing. Even when I was in college, I had food stamps while going to school full-time at Buffalo State College. But just because I was on government services to get to that next step in my life, doesn't mean that I didn't deserve the same good, fair, equitable quality of life like anyone else does. We're all paying the same money. So, provide the same equitable services. So to me, working on that, being a part of that, leading that initiative really helped me lead my direction into what I want to do with the rest of my life and specifically my career.
We're talking with Paul Pérez this morning on Buffalo What's Next. A lot of different things that we can talk about here, and we did touch upon the generational wealth. But I'm interested about your experience, though, with the Clean Sweep program or initiative and the outreach part of it. That's interesting to me. So you're going up to houses on a given street, a given block or whatever, walking up to people. What kind of reactions did you get?
Continuously good, received well. People like that. People do want
They
to see.
appreciated that contact.
Of course, especially when I'm going out there representing the organization that I work for, home headquarters, and I'm providing them with information in the application saying, hey, listen, we can help you with your roof. We can help you with your foundation. We can help you with your windows that are in such need of repair because those are the original windows that you got the house when it was built,
Right.
So for me, all of that just allows me to reach the people effectively on a one-on-one basis. And at the same time, it also allows me to constantly receive new ideas, receive new information, like what is the people in need of? Because I think a lot of times with organizations, they all have good intentions. And even in government, anywhere you go, even business, right? Everybody has their idea. They came up, they did what they had to do, they excelled, they exceeded, and they reached a certain point. But then that could also be your ceiling. You don't want to apex, you want to keep going.
Right.
So you got to also know that the people in which you serve, they're the ones who steer the ship. So just always having that ear and eyes on the street and your heart connected to those people really helps make you genuine. I think for me, that's always been like my staple here in Buffalo and why I've been received so well is to many other community members when I go to block club meetings, speaking to the board of block clubs, talking to different organizations, going to town hall meetings. They always look at me and receive me as like a young brother, or to the elder women, I'm usually like their young grandson, So I appreciate that and I'm thankful. And they always see me as he's here to help. So I appreciate that. And I'm always trying.
Because that's not always the reaction, I would think. That not everybody is necessarily accepted when it comes to, yeah, I'm here to help. Yeah, everybody's here to help, but maybe not everybody is accepting that outside help as much, but yet you find a different experience.
For sure, I always told myself as, what's the definition of leadership? And to me, my personal opinion is leadership is someone who's close enough to relate to, yet I had enough to follow. And I've been through the trenches. I'm from the hood. I'm
Right.
from these neighborhoods. So I know what it is to struggle. I know what it is to just keep trying to do the right thing and doing the right thing and consistently putting your best foot forward and having faith in God. At the same time, taking those blessings and now leveraging it and working on it. And as you go up, I took the stairs, I go up, I'm always looking back as how can I help the next person? I'm a community champion at heart. I just have different outlets as to how I can do that.
No doubt. It's impressive the way you've gone about doing this, for sure. When you look at kids, 16, 15, 14-year-old kids, do you think back to the kids that you're growing up with in the South Bronx? Do you think of yourself, and what can you say to these kids?
For sure. Actually, I spoke to them this summer. We had shout out to the Yale Academy. My brother Lee Anthony Freeman, Buffalo native, also a fraternity brother of mine, Prince Hall Mason, Ionic Lives number 88. And
You're always networking, are you?
Listen, I'm always working. I'm in the community. I'm here. I'm really entrenched into this work, and this is my heart. This is my passion. And I think that you can always, I told the kids, so what I did was over the summer, I taught them about credit, right? I taught them about the basic principles of credit, how to use that. What does that look like for themselves? I taught them about how to create an LLC, and I taught them about real estate. And I'm a big proponent of the three most financially successful people in the country tend to be those who invest in real estate, right? Those who invest in stocks and bonds. As we saw in the Great Recession, those groups, those organizations still rose, right?
Mhm.
Same thing with the housing market. It took a hit, but it still rose to incredible new heights now. And then those who also own businesses. Those three groups or people, you can be all of one or you could be two of three, but you got to be in one of those fields because those are the people that get the most tax benefits. Those are the people that actually rise with the tide when the economy comes back. For me, going back to the Black wealth and what I spoke with the students, I was teaching them this is how you build Black wealth. This is how you build that passive income or just even have assets in which you own that if anything happens or things hit the fan, you have this for yourself and your family, and you could potentially live off of this and pass this down to the next generation and the next generation is what we need to focus on.
When you look at kids like that, like you were talking to this summer, I'm sure they were enraptured with the idea of having the possibility of having wealth, but at the same time, there must be pitfalls. What do you see are the pitfalls for young people?
For sure. Speaking to my Black and brown community here in Buffalo and to nationwide and even further throughout in the world, worldwide, we're not privy to those resources. We're not privy to those conversations. Our education system really doesn't put an emphasis on teaching kids, even in college, teaching you about credit. What is your FICO score? Simple things like that. A budget. I always start off my credit classes and consultations with, do you have a budget? Okay, you don't have a budget? All right, we need to work on a budget. Basic, simple, what's your income? What's your expenses? Your net operating income. This is what you have left over to work with. And then when we have those conversations and we go through those exercises, they start to realize, yeah, I wanted a car, but you know what? This car may be a little bit too much right now. So let me just save up and then I'll eventually get a car when I have 3 months of savings or I have 3 months of my car payment, my rent is paid, I have all my bills in order, and I can sustain myself to my next job or my next position in my career.
It sounds like obviously a great approach to things. At the same time, kids are being marketed to, right? From outside interests who they don't really care about their budget. They don't really care about their generational wealth. They just care about getting their money from their pockets into their corporate coffers. Is that something that you see as a troubling landscape as well?
Yeah, I think even for adults, not even just children.
Sure, trust me.
I think a lot of us, it's just the American way, right? Even America, I can't tell the micro how to do things if we're not acknowledging the macro. And the macro is that America's in debt. Trillions of dollars in debt to other nations, right? That we're supposedly competing against. And it's like, how can you get out of that? Well, you got to be a producer. You got to stray away from being a consumer and start focusing on being a producer. And I think for us, I like nice things. I like to wear.
You got amazing sneakers.
Oh, appreciate it, brother. Appreciate it. Shout out to Y3, Yohoji Yamamatsu, and shout out to Soho in New York City. We out here. But I do like nice things. And I did show the kids. I showed the kids that, I'm driving a Tesla. I did show the kids. I do have all the new Yeezys and stuff like that. But I only have what I have because I could afford it. And that's what we got to get into. We got to get into the mindset of what is affordability. And there's things that I have passed up on because I'm willing to have that delayed gratification. For me, having to have food stamps, having to grind and go to the bus stay full time, go travel all the way to the mall because the bus took an hour just to get all the way out to Cheektowaga. And I only had but maybe $20 in my pocket for the week to basically buy any food at that time outside of the food that I had at my house. And put a lot of things in perspective, and that adversity, those obstacles really help refine me and focus me in to say, all right, you need to get the things that you need, and then you can scale up. You can start building your income, and then you can budget and have maybe 10% allocated to things that you want and preserve your stuff, protect yourself. That there's getting things, right, that you want or getting assets. Then there's protecting those assets that you want. And then is expanding and building on those assets to try to accumulate more. And that's the American way. That's the true American way. We follow the leaders, the entrepreneurs, those business owners. The civil rights movement was led by the entrepreneurs and the Blacks that, who invested in the community. They had to pay for Martin Luther King and all of these civil rights leaders to go on these buses, to travel, to preach the good word. But there was still money involved. We still live in a capitalist democracy. And we saw in the 2016 elections and beyond, even currently with Joe Biden, that capitalism is always going to win, because how do they pay for these billion-dollar now campaigns?
Right.
It's money. So if we can preserve our money and take our money and use it like seed, right? So the wise farmer is going to plant that seed and give it the nourishment that it needs so that way it can grow. But if your money is like a seed and you're not planting them and you're not growing them, then what are you doing? Are you eating them? Are you throwing them away? What are you going to do when, there's a drought? There's no abundance. You got to be able to have some self-sustainability. And that's my biggest thing to promote to the community is we need to start focusing on being producers instead of just being consumers.
And I think you actually just answered the question right there, but I'll ask it anyway. For this community, for the Buffalo community, you're obviously a big picture guy, yet you're working down in the trenches at the same time. What's obstructing that message from the community?
Definitely the media. We have in our community, a lot of negative depictions of ourselves. We too much associate wealth with material things. And that's why, for me, it's like, you got to have the sugar before you give the vinegar. So I showed them, like, yes, you can have nice things and you can do it with integrity and build and take care of your family. We do have obstructions, and I'm proud to say it, and it's just not local, but just overall too, right? Like governments. The government has failed Black people consistently. We tend to be sold what we call in our neighborhoods the wolf tickets.
A wolf ticket.
A wolf ticket. So basically like crying wolf, but it doesn't amount to anything. And I think for us, we need to stop trying to put all our eggs in the basket of hope and government, because government can't just do everything by itself. And I learned that when I worked in City Hall. Like, it was great and it was a beautiful opportunity, and I'm forever thankful because it allowed me to start my career and really understand the community and what I want to do. But I also acknowledged and learned that as much as I was going into these communities that were underserved and putting all the resources and energy into it, I also realized that the community is the number one leader for the community to get out to rise. So, that's why I'm really a big proponent on not putting blames to anyone, yet, acknowledging the atrocities and the things that are going on, speaking truth to power, right? And at the same time, going back to my community and saying, hey, we have to do better. We have to invest in ourselves. And investing in ourselves is not just purchasing the asset. Investing in ourselves starts with our health, our mental health, our spiritual health, making sure that we're taking care of our household. Is there love going on within each other? Can you see your fellow brother in the neighborhood and just say, peace, brother, peace, king, how you doing today? My shine is your shine, and vice versa. I want to see you win, because you winning makes me feel good, and I'm winning. Just being a part of that and working together as a community, I think really is what's going to help take us to the next level. And you just got to take the time, right? Because I tell the kids specifically, I'm like, y'all on TikTok, y'all on IG, right? But you're looking at sneakers, you're looking at cars, you're looking at clothes, but are you looking at ways to create some wealth for yourself? Because the job markets are scarce. I remember even myself coming up, 21 years old, bachelor's degree, refined. I could come in with a suit and tie, but I'm still not getting the same job opportunity as my white counterparts that come from more.
So what did you do? What did you do?
I just kept pushing. I just kept saying to myself, listen, you're going to win. It's going to come. There will be a break for yourself. But you also need to learn that you have to build something on your own. And, when I did get the door, the opportunity in the door, right? The blessings from others and all the people that had looked out for me, I took that opportunity, I ran with it. And I said, okay, now I'm in, but this isn't the end all be all, because I think this is relatable across the board, whether white, black, or whatever your ethnicity. When you're going to college, you're in that rat race. So you're in college thinking, I'm going to get out of school, I'm going to get a good job, and everything is going to be okay. Well, that's not really it, right?
Right.
You sold the wolf ticket.
Is that what I had when I graduated from upstate?
Yeah, you got a wolf degree.
Paul Pérez
Yeah.
is with us this morning on Buffalo West Side. for another 4 minutes or so. We did. I really wanted to get into the real estate
I'm here.
element
I'm
of
free.
things. We only have a couple of minutes
Yeah,
here,
yeah.
but they're, like we talked about earlier, the demolitions have stopped for the most part.
Sure.
There are a lot of empty lots in the city of Buffalo.
Yes, sir.
Are they opportunities for building? What do you think? What are
Yes.
those possibilities?
Yes, they are truly opportunities for building. I am a new developer here in Buffalo. Started out, I purchased my 3-unit home. So to speak to that, so how to get out of that rat race, you got to start getting those assets. I read books like Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I went on YouTube, people. There's a lot of information, free information on YouTube that you can learn from and benefit from. And I started learning about real estate, got my loan origination license, went and got my HUD certification, worked at NACA, closed over $14 million worth of loans. And then I started realizing, I want to buy some assets, buy more properties, but the purchase prices were getting too high.
Sure.
And then I started looking, I'm like, I have a big, massive backyard in my North Buffalo 3-unit home. Why don't I just build on it? I'm coming from New York City. We build vertically. We live vertically.
Right.
So I'm like, all right, let me just do that. So then I went, I put the initiative in, and I reached out to the city. I asked them about the green code, and things are within the green code. If you're a homeowner or a potential homeowner and you want to see changes in your neighborhood, you need to go to the places that have the authority over what is going on in your government, right? Speak to your elected officials, speak to the department head, and find out what you can do to be a solution and provide that solution. So I researched, I found an architect, I found a mechanical electrical engineer. I combined those plans together. I submitted it to the city, and now we're at the last stage of approval to get this project started. And I think that this is going to help catapult me and the movement of Black financial equity rights movement. And I'm coining that here in Buffalo.
I like that.
And for the world, we got to now start owning and we got to start building. So we can't keep asking for others and every other group to come out and help us. We have to now do it within ourselves and for ourselves.
Yet at the same time, it seems like you're more than willing to help anytime.
Always around, I'm available. People see me. I've been on billboards. I'm out in the community meetings. I'm in town hall meetings. I'm in the clean sweeps. I'm going door to door. I'm around.
All right. Paul Pérez Jr. is with us this morning on Buffalo What's Next. I really appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you all. And keep believing in yourself. Remember that. Anything is possible when you believe in yourself.
Excellent words to end on. This is Buffalo What's Next on WBFO. It was great.